Hello and welcome to a long overdue episode of the Purple Rain Report. Been away for a few weeks, so just recently had a newborn, so I've had my plate plenty full. But it's great to be back with you guys. Plenty of stuff for me to break down for you guys today. Starting off with the draft, I watched the draft in its entirety. Me and my son. Well, it's his first time watching the draft, and I really enjoyed watching what Eric DaCosta and his staff was able to do over the 3 days of the first ever virtual draft. The two winners out of the draft, most prognosticators, experts, and gurus, and all that have been saying, have been the Cowboys and the Ravens. The Cowboys pretty much had the draft fall exactly the way they wanted it to. I mean, they couldn't have asked the board to fall better than it did for them. I mean, having CeeDee Lamb fall to them at 17, Trevon Diggs fall to them where they selected him in the second round, and then getting a guy like Neville Gallimore. I mean, they pretty much had the ball fall to them better than I've seen. I mean, you can even fantasy draft on Madden better a better draft than the Cowboys had. Just from a pure value standpoint, as far as where the way they were originally selected to pick and the players that are available to them. What impressed me more about what the Ravens did is yeah, their first two picks fell to them. We'll get into them: Patrick Queen, J.K. Dobbins. But after that, I mean, just what they were able to do in the third round and the remaining rounds, trading up in the sixth round to take a receiver and landing a guy like Geno Stone in the seventh round. What the Ravens were able to do to me was more impressive because they were able to maneuver around the board. The only time the Cowboys had to trade up was a couple spots in front, with the trade with the Eagles, a couple spots just to grab the center Tyler Biadasz out of Wisconsin. What the Ravens were able to do that was so impressive to me was they were able to get pretty much at least three starters, if not instant contributors in the third round. They came in with two picks, one pick in the first, two in the second, two in the third. But they were able to parlay that the 60th overall pick. They traded that to the Patriots for two third rounders, and they were able to come away with the haul of third rounders that is going to be contributors for the team for years to come, and even starters. So let's just get into it, and we're gonna break it down pick by pick, and then I'll even talk about some undrafted free agents that could possibly make the roster. So starting off with number one, the first overall pick, 20th overall, Patrick Queen out of LSU. I was really surprised that he made it. He fell this far, and fell that far in the draft. I mean, many people thought the Ravens would have to draft, trade up to select either him or Kenneth Murray out of Oklahoma. But in true Ravens fashion, they kind of just waited to see and just took the best player available. And this is one of those instances where the best player available lined up with one of their top needs, if not their biggest need coming to this draft, was their middle linebacker position. We've had that hole in the middle since C.J. Mosley left last offseason to the Jets, and then losing Josh Bynes to the Bengals this offseason after he kind of came in and kind of helped save the middle of that defense and brought stability to that Mike linebacker spot last year, and then losing Patrick Peanutto also to the Jets, following CJ to the Jets, and it was looking real bleak for the inside linebacker position. Only guys they had on the roster heading into the draft was L.J. Ford, Chris Board, undrafted free agent, and like Olaka, another free agent. So it was looking real bleak, and the Ravens are kind of going to come away of one of definitely with one, if not two middle linebackers to kind of bolster that position. That's exactly what they did. Use the first round pick on ASU product. Now, Patrick Queen was a 1 year starter at LSU for the Tigers, for the Bayou Bengals down there, and he wasn't even a starter for the entirety of his junior season there. But when he did get into the lineup, I mean, the dude's playing lights out. Typically the reason I believe that the Ravens would want a guy like Kenneth Murray over Patrick Queen is because the Ravens are all about they love the tape, and there was way more tape on Murray than there was on Queen. Murray was a 3 year starter. He called the defense all 3 years. I just thought he was tailor made for the Ravens defense, but as we all know, the Los Angeles Chargers traded up 23 to select Murray, and we were still able to have Queen fall to us. And Queen's actually, if you watch the tape of the two, I mean, both of them real fast sideline to sideline linebackers, say great speed, and great tacklers. But what separates the two is that we saw Kenneth Murray. What you saw from him, with what you saw on tape, is what you're gonna get with with Patrick Queen. I mean, what you saw is just him scratching the surface of what he can become. I mean, I'm not saying that Kenneth Murray's ceiling is not as high as Patrick Queen's, but what I am saying is that, like, Patrick, just watching what Patrick Queen did at LSU, just not limited sample size. It's just, the world tantalizing. The Ravens even said it. It's just that's just his best ball is ahead of him. I'm not sure how many, how much higher a level, Kenneth Murray can take it up a notch. I know Patrick Queen, he got a taste of, being a starter. His final year in college helped the Tigers win the national championship. Him and Joe Burrow and all those LSU Tigers that got drafted this past season. Patrick Queen was one of the best of them, and now he's going to come into an excellent situation in the Ravens defense, where he has a star-studded, stacked, loaded defensive line, especially up front, and then in the interior, it's going to open big holes for him, eat up a lot of blockers, and that allows those linemen to get to the offensive linemen to get to the second level to kind of eat them up and get some downfield blocks. So now he'll be able to not just fly sideline to sideline, but also to kind of knife through the backfield, find the holes, fill the holes as soon as they open up in the run game. And we're also with kind of where Queen excels over Murray is just his natural feel for the passing game. I mean, if you just watch his tape, I mean, the guy just falls in the passing lanes, reads eyes of the quarterback real well. He can cover man, and he can drop. He's an excellent dropper in zone coverage. I think that's where he's at his best in coverage is in zone. But he's a real instinctive player, has a real natural feel for the passing game, and is going to be a playmaker for the Ravens defense for many years to come. He's also going to be wearing number 48, Peanuts old number. So Ravens will still have another 48 in the patrol in the middle of the field. This time he'll be playing, most likely be playing Mike linebacker next to LJ Fort, or maybe Malik Harrison. We're going to talk about here a little later. It might be the next great inside linebacker tandem for the Ravens. I'm writing an article about it for mysportsvote.com. Go check us out on the app store, or on our website. It's mysportsvote. I'll be dropping an article about that, about them potentially being the next great inside linebacker tandem duo later on this week. But moving on to the second pick. Spent a little too much on Patrick Queen, but how could you not? How could you not? I mean, just having him. I got real nervous after that. I didn't know that the Seahawks were gonna you were selecting one spot ahead of the Ravens. We're gonna go linebacker, and the fact that they took Jordan Brooks out of Texas Tech and passing on Patrick Queen. I mean, it's head scratching if you're outside looking in, but if you're the Ravens, you're jumping for joy. Like they took the Seahawks opted to take a guy who they could have got in the second, third round. Even maybe even fourth round. I mean, he was a bit of a late riser. Jordan Brooks was out of Texas Tech, for the Red Raiders. But just having a guy like Patrick Queen fall to the Ravens one spot later, who's really more, he's not as polished as Brooks, but Brooks is more of that throwback, just in the box kind of linebacker, and whereas Patrick Queen can excel in space as well as in the box. So thanks a lot for Seahawks. I really appreciate it. Gonna enjoy watching Patrick Queen light up the league, and I'm pretty sure Jordan Brooks is gonna have a solid career. But if you watch I mean, just the fact that they were taking one pick after one another, their careers are kind of gonna be tied. Like, damn, Seahawks fans probably in a year later this year, or year two from now, maybe we could have Patrick Queen. We got this dude. I mean, I'm not poo-pooing on Jordan Brooks by any means, but I just feel like Patrick Queen has the higher ceiling and is set up for more success than a Jordan Brooks would be right away. Moving on to the second round pick, running back J.K. Dobbins out of Ohio State. Now, coming to the draft, running back was like probably if not probably the lowest, if not one of the lowest, if not the lowest on the Ravens list of needs heading into the draft. They got Mark Ingram. Was the leading rusher as far as running backs last year. Lamar Jackson led the team in rushing with about 1,200 yards, but they already had a nice stable of backs with Mark Ingram, Gus the Bus Edwards, who had over 700 yards, despite not starting just one game last year. He was really kind of the closer. He was the guy that when the Ravens got up early in games, he would be the one that comes in, kind of spell Mark Ingram here and there, but come in really in third, fourth quarter and kind of put teams away, just kind of batter them down, kind of take their will away later in games. And then you had Justice Hill, who the Ravens took in the fourth round last year out of Oklahoma State. And he didn't have a whole lot of production as a rookie, but he did come on strong. He's a nice change of pace back. I know LaDainian Thomas was recently on NFL Network talking about how he's one of the underrated backs, and the key to unlocking the Ravens offense, his favorite back. And I was like, I don't know about all that. I mean, I like him. I like Justice a lot, and he's a nice change of pace back, and a nice good receiver out of the backfield. But so are all the guys. Even Gus, showed his some receiving skills last year, and so I think like running back was far from the top need for the Ravens heading to the draft. But when you're picking at 55th overall, and a guy in J.K. Dobbins who ran for over 2,000 yards last year ran for eclipsed 3,000 yards in each of his 3 seasons at Ohio State, and despite not being a full-time starter, I mean, he's too good to pass up. This is one of those, once again, the best player available, and even though it wasn't at a position of need, it was just the best player available. The highest graded player on their board at the time was J.K. Dobbins, and they took him. And what's funny is they took J.K. Dobbins with the 55th overall pick. It's the highest running back that the Ravens have drafted since Ray Rice, and who was also taken out of Rutgers with the 55th overall pick. And all he did was go on to be a 3-time Pro Bowler, have 4 straight years of over 1,000 yards rushing, eclipsed 2,000 scrimmage yards twice, and was a key member of the Ravens' the 2012 Super Bowl run. And like I said, he had he had tumultuous end to his tenure in Baltimore, but his career in Baltimore was loaded with success. And J.K. Dobbins is set up for success as well. He may not eclipse 1,000 yards rushing as a rookie. Neither did Ray Rice. Ray Rice only had just about 727 total yards from scrimmage as a rookie, after sharing time with Willis McGahee and LeRon McClain in 2008. But his second year, he kind of took the reins and ran with it, and he was the featured back for the next 4 seasons. And I envision a similar kind of arc of a career for a guy like J.K. Dobbins. Even though I love Mark Ingram, and I still see him playing out the remainder of his contract in Baltimore. He signed through the 2021 season. I just think a guy like J.K. Dobbins, the Ravens. Yes, like I much we all love Mark Ingram, and the Ravens. At the end of the day, they're all about production. They're all about like you practice good, you play good. They're gonna play the best player, and so and they're gonna ride the hot hand. So if Mark Ingram is still doing his thing, he's still gonna get the run. He's still gonna get his fair share of touches. But the cool thing about the Ravens offense, they run the ball better and more than anybody else in the NFL. Broke the single season team rushing record last year. Lamar Jackson broke the single season rushing record for a quarterback, and the Ravens led the league in rushing yards per game with just over 206 yards per game. So it's going to be plenty of touches to go around. And, like I said, I don't envision him. I don't envision J.K. Dobbins being offensive rookie of the year. Unless knock on wood, Mark gets injured, and even then, I still see a guy like Gus Edwards, and carving out a larger role in the offense if Mark were to go down, or in Justice Hill, just seeing more action after coming on strong late last season in his rookie year. But like I said, J.K. Dobbins, first year I was like J.K. Dobbins, and I was like, wow, I didn't know he was still on the board. When guys like Jonathan Taylor and DeAndre Swift came off early in the second round, you're thinking, okay, J.K. Dobbins must have already been gone. No, no, he's still on the board. Okay, I feel it. I love it. Want some more of it. But yeah, so J.K. Dobbins, great pickup, great value pick for the Ravens. Just another guy that's gonna with a first round. Who many had a first round grade on. The Ravens themselves thought he'd go anywhere from like 25 to 30. And the fact that we were able to get him at 55 in the middle of the second round was an absolute steal. I moved on to like I say, the Ravens did have had 2 second round picks. They traded their second round pick, 60th overall pick, to the New England Patriots in exchange for 2 third rounders. So the Ravens actually had ended up making 4 selections in the third round, three of which have potential to become pretty much instant contributors, if not starters, and the fourth being a guy who's going to come in and compete right away for a starting job. So all these guys are going to come in. I mean, of course, all draft picks are coming from a computer starting jobs, but these guys, especially in the third round, are going to be nice rotational guys, or if not starters. And the first guy they took was Texas A&M defensive tackle Justin Matabike. at 71 overall. The former Aggie is a great interior pass rusher. I think he's gonna be put. I think he could, sneakily sneak himself into the, defensive rookie of the year conversation just because the Ravens are gonna be rotating the defensive linemen so much. He's gonna be learning for some of the best interior rushers in the league, and a guy like Calais Campbell and Derek Wolfe, who signed a 1 year contract with the Ravens. So I think him being able to kind of spell those guys, keep fresh coming fresh throughout the game. Not play too many snaps. And like I said, he was a great interior pass rusher at the University of Texas A&M. Um, that he had back-to-back seasons of recording five and a half sacks, and like I said, he'll learn from one of the best to ever do it in Calais Campbell. So I think Calais is going to take him under his wing and really kind of show him the ropes of how to be a great interior pass rusher at the NFL level. Yeah, as we all know, it's a big jump. Even though he did play in the SEC with against a lot of NFL competition, this is the real big boys league. So I think Calais Campbell can really be a godsend for a guy like Justin Madubuike, and kind of pour some kerosene a little bit on his development, just because he's not coming in expected to start right away, but he was expected to contribute, and he'll have a guy in Campbell who can kind of show him the ropes and then some. After that, they a few picks later, they selected Texas wide receiver Devin Duvernay, and I mean, just the picture of head coach John Harbaugh kind of fist pumping after Ravens made the selection after Ravens made the selection of Devin Duvernay at the 90 with the 92nd overall pick. I mean, it's just ingrained in my brain. It really it really cracked me up. Like, I see why he was excited after watching film on this dude. I mean, he's like one of those guys with inside outside versatility. Predominantly ran out of the slot. Ran out of slot. Only college receiver last year who had more, according to Pro Football Focus and Next Gen Stats. Only college receiver that had more receiving yards out of the slot was Justin Jefferson of LSU Tigers, who ended up going in the first round. But the fact that the Ravens were able to get a guy like Duvernay in the third round. It's like he's a great slot receiver. I think he has the potential to eat into some of Willie Snead's not some, a lot of his snaps in the slot, and eventually replace him. But not just that he's not just the good slot guy. I mean, he has good. He's extremely fast, great breakaway speed. He ran a 4.39 at the combine. Explosive after the catch, runs through tackles like a running back. I mean, like when he gets the ball in his hands, like on a slant or something like that, a little short route, and he can really split the safeties and kind of like gash the defense down the middle, and really make some things happen after the catch. He has great hands. Only had one drop charge to him last season. Got a career high 106 balls for 1300 for over 1,300 yards and 9 touchdowns. So a guy like Devin Duvernay, like the Ravens went out and got Lamar Jackson yet another weapon that ended up in the passing game. So now you got Devin Duvernay, and we're gonna get to James Force a little later. Marquise Hollywood Brown, who's gonna be he's poised for having a breakout season after still recovering after having a solid rookie season while in the midst of dealing with injuries, recovering from that Liz Frank injury and suffering an ankle sprain, and dealing with ankle injury throughout the season. And Miles Boykin in the fold. I would like to see something out of Jaleel Scott before his rookie contract is up, so that'd be nice. But yeah, I'm really excited for the weapons that the Ravens have accumulated for Lamar Jackson, especially at the receiver position. I'm really excited for what he's going to be able to do. The guy already led the league in passing touchdowns last year with the guys he had last year, and you add a guy like Duvernay who can, like I said, make a big play from anywhere on the field. Like I said, great yard after catch guy, can make some things happen on his own, not just just waiting on the quarterback to get it there, but also can take a short route the distance. So that's very exciting. The pick after that, the third round pick was another where they went with another inside linebacker named Ohio State's Malik Harrison. Now I was really surprised that he was available so late in the third round, pretty much at the bottom of the third round. You're talking about a guy who was a 3 year starter at the University of Ohio State, Ohio State University, and a very he's I want to compare him to Jordan Brooks because, like, he's a he's a throwback thumper. He'll lay the wood. You don't want to you didn't want to come across the middle when you're playing the Buckeyes because Malik Harrison was going to put the hammer on you. But he also he's a former high school quarterback. His athleticism is a little bit underrated. He's real great in the box, and like I wouldn't. He's not as fluid or as the natural feel in the passing game as a guy like Patrick Queen, but I think that the two are set up to play off of each other's strengths extremely well. Queen will be the guy probably most tasked with in good coverage and stuff like that, whereas Malik Harrison can kind of be the guy. He's an excellent blitzer. I mean, both Queen and Harrison are excellent blitzers, but Malik Harrison especially does his best work and in the box near the line of scrimmage. So look for him to kind of be that enforcer, and whereas Patrick Queen is going to be that just see ball, get ball, have a feel for the ball kind of guy. So I think if they'll play well off of each other, he'll be wearing number 40, Kenny Young's old number. I don't know. A lot of these linebackers wearing the 40 numbers now, but excited to see what Malik Harrison can bring to this defense. I'm just real excited for what him and Queen can do together. I know they got LJ Fort signed for the next 2 years, but I know the future of the position in Baltimore will be Harrison and Queen. So look for those two guys to kind of hold it down in the middle of the Ravens defense. Like I said, Harrison will benefit from the Ravens loaded defensive line as much as Queen will. Like I said, he'll be able to fly around, make plays in the backfield, stuff the run, and possibly even make some plays in the passing game at the intermediate level. So it'll be fun to see, most definitely. Um, yeah, he finished the last season with 75 tackles, career high, 16 and a half tackles for loss, and 3.5 sacks. So, like I said, he's the kind of guy that, really lives in the backfield, makes a lot of plays behind the line of scrimmage, not just at the line of scrimmage, but behind the line of scrimmage. 16 and a half tackles for loss, just nothing to turn your nose up at. So, that's really nice. The last pick, the Ravens had the last pick in the third round, and they used it to take, they used to take Mississippi State, offensive tackle. Well, he played offensive tackle at Mississippi State, but he's a guy that can project to guard and come right in and compete for that starting job vacated by recently retired future Hall of Famer, Pro Bowl, All Pro Marcianda. I mean, it still hurts my heart that he didn't want to give it one more go, just because I believe this year's Ravens team is so poised to just make a lot of noise this year, even more noise than they made last year. I mean, this is the team that's primed to take it all to Super Bowl. They addressed every need, literally every need. I mean, they could have, said, I mean, they didn't just pass, outside linebacker, so a lot of people, including myself, thought they would. But like I said, when you load up on interior pass rushers, like a pass rush is pass rush, so they improve the pass rush. Whether yet they didn't go out and trade for a guy like Yannick Ngakoue, or draft a guy like Clavon Chase on, or Yetur Gross Matos, or someone like that, one of the premier edge rushers in this draft. But what they were able to do is improve their ranks in the pass rushing ranks on the interior, which was the place they've really been lacking really since the Timmy Jernigan and Lodi Nada back in 2014, when they were both getting a lot of push inside, and then Elvis Dumerville and Terrell Suggs were getting claps in the pocket from the outside. So now I think that the fact that they have so much incredible depth and talent in the interior of the defensive line as far as the pass rushing set, it's going to take a lot of attention off of guys like Matt Judon and Jalen Ferguson heading to his second year, so they'll be able to make more plays on the edge, because the opposing offense is going to be forced to have a little more tension and more bodies to kind of slowing down that rush in the middle. I remember I played my cousin in Madden, put Calais Campbell on the Ravens, and the dude is literally unblockable. I know it's just a game, but I mean, if you watch him in real life too, the dude is unblockable. So now he'll be playing next to guys like Derek Wolfe and Brandon Big Baby Williams, and it's just I'm foaming at the mouth for all the possibilities. I know Donald Martindale too, and what this defense can accomplish this season. Moving on in the fourth round, but like I said, the Phillips, the real raw prospect, but has the potential to be a mauler at guard, if not at least a swing tackle for both Stanley and Orlando Brown Jr. since the team released James Hurst this offseason. So look for a guy like Tyree Phillips to kind of be the jack of all trades role. He can pretty much play any position but center. So look for him to be in that competition, now loaded competition at guard, with that guy we're gonna get to here next. I'm gonna mention as is Ben Bredesen, who they took selected in the fourth round, in the first round of day 3 of the draft. They got Michigan, Ben Bredesen, another Wolverine. That Wolverine to Baltimore pipeline. It hasn't been rich, but it's been impactful. You got a guy like Chris Wormley in the past, and like I said, head coach John Harbaugh's brother Jim Harbaugh, the head coach of Michigan. So I think the Ravens, he'll be welcome addition, like I said, to the competition, try to replace Marshall Yonda. Um, and I think the fact that the Ravens have that Michigan connection, with the two Harbaugh brothers, the Ravens were able to get plenty of good info on him that most teams were, kind of missed out on without, there being any pro days because of the whole coronavirus thing. So the Ravens had I believe the Ravens had a pretty extensive report, scattered report on Bredesen, and they felt comfortable enough with the information that they gathered, just because they have so much real legitimate connection with the coaching staff. A lot of times, some coaches will tell teams, whatever they want to hear to kind of glorify their player, try to get their player drafted as high as they can, tell them they have no weaknesses when they have some glaring ones, or kind of cover up some things and not, be fully transparent. But with the Harbaugh brothers, they're both straight shooters, so that that Jim was not gonna, you know, jive with John in the sense to kind of just get him to take his guy, just be taking his guy, and that he really is the going to be a right fit for the culture in Baltimore, and for it's going to be a great asset, as far as a guy who can come in and play. Really, I mean, he even said in a session with the media that he's learning all the interior offensive line positions in the event that he might have to kick in at center. So the Ravens value versatility among offensive linemen. So you got Phillips, who can play. You can play either tackle position and either guard position. Then Bredesen, who can play either guard position and possibly even center if need be. So the Ravens are really loading up on the interior and reinforcing the interior of their offensive line, which is like I said, it's been like outside of Yonda. I mean, they got some good play from Skura last year before he went down, and Patrick McCurry before in his stead, and Bradley Bozeman did a pretty nice job at left guard. But the good teams are always looking for ways to improve, and always looking for ways to bring in more competition. They don't just rest on their laurels like, hey, we got a solid play from so and so. Let's just not address the position. No, if we can get better at that position, we're going to attack the position. We're going to address that position, and that's what the Ravens did. So kudos to them for that. I love what they did with those two picks. Moving on to the fifth round, they were able to get Texas Tech defensive tackle Broderick Washington at 170 overall. But he's a I always know the Ravens are gonna. I thought after Adam Matabike they weren't gonna take another defensive lineman. I'm like, where I'm like, man, you took Dalen Mack last year. This defensive line is loaded. You re-signed Jahad Ward and Justin Ellis. I'm like, we're not going to take a defensive lineman, but hey, lo and behold, a guy like Washington was there, and after watching his tip, I see why. He's a penetrating run stuffer that can play nose tackle or defensive tackle. Didn't boast the gaudy sack numbers in college, with just his career high being 3 in 2018, but he does generate a lot of good interior pressure. So like I said, another guy in there can come in and rotate and kind of collapse the pocket from the interior. At 6'3", 304, he's kind of built like similar to the Michael Brockers, the defensive tackle from the Rams, who the Ravens were close to signing, but the deal fell through. Brockers is 6'5" and 305. Like I said, Washington is 6'3", 304, so they have very similar builds, and they have very similar playing styles. Because Brockers is more known for his run stuffing prowess more so than pass rusher, and in college Washington did a lot of the same. Even though he was able to get a lot of quarterback pressures, like I said, didn't have gaudy stat numbers and play the run extremely well. So that's another guy that the Ravens have adding. And considering that Brandon Williams, like is on the wrong side of 30, and his cap number, he has one of the highest cap hits on the team for the next few seasons, and really for the remainder of his contract after restructuring a couple times. So look for the I mean, like and then who knows? There's been some rumors about him possibly thinking about hanging it up. You can't really blame a guy who spent his career in the trenches. That's really where the most wear and tear happens on people's bodies. So if Brandon does step away, if the team chooses to go in a different direction, they have guys like Dalen Mack and Washington under contract for the next 3 to 4 years on rookie deals that they could use in that nose tackle position. So both guys can do that. But just talking about Washington, I like the pick like that. I wasn't taken aback, but I was like, huh. Okay, let me watch this guy's tape and then see what it's really all about. And I was not disappointed. Once again, the Ravens continue to find great value in the draft. And like I said, just because a position is not a position of need, fortifying with the position of strength or adding a better depth, especially if it's the best player available on your board, nothing wrong with that. So adding some more bodies, adding some more juice, adding some more strength to a position that's already stout. There's nothing like that. There's only more good come from that. You're always looking for great depth because you never know when the injury bug could hit a team in any given year, and the Ravens have been hit with it throughout with several different positions throughout the years, especially at cornerback. Now they're deep at cornerback, deep at defensive line, and now they even got some more bodies at inside linebacker. So that's whew. This Ravens defense is looking nasty at all three levels. I'm real excited for this season. Um, in the sixth round, the Raiders actually traded up to draft SMU receiver James Prochet at 201. And like yeah, he's a dynamic receiver with great hands, can work inside out. Just like Duvernay. He makes real good contested catches with his jump balls, and he can run every route on the route tree. He set career highs his senior season with 111 catches and 1,225 yards for 15 TDs, and even he offers some upside as a returner as well. And the fact that Baltimore traded the Ravens traded up to select him shows that like this is the guy that they really coveted. The fact they were coming away with two guys that caught over 100 balls in their final collegiate seasons is just and I wouldn't call it mind-boggling. Just like, ooh, okay, Ed DaCosta we trust. He's really. I mean, Eric DaCosta. I'll kind of wrap up this episode with just some Eric DaCosta praise. But yeah, just the fact that they were able to get two bona fide playmakers at the receiver position, and he even said there are players to be at. A lot of Ravens fans were kind of clamoring for some of the bigger, more notable name guys like Denzel Mims or Laviska Shenault or somebody else like T Higgins and with the first round pick or second round pick or one of the two second round picks, they expected the Ravens to take a receiver with one of their first three picks. And it didn't happen, but it ended up working out just as good. Derek DaCosta even said in his pre-draft presser that there are starters and playmakers at the receiver position to be had in the later rounds. So possibly even on day three. They got one on day two and on day three, so they came away with two. But like I said, Prochet. He'll be wearing number 11. Duvernay will be wearing number 13. Look for both of those guys making plays as rookies and contributing right away. This Ravens offense, this Ravens team in general is going to be scary. But like I said, Prochet, like the Ravens have been really looking for some consistency at the returning position since Jacoby Jones, since he left. But like I said, they have D'Anthony Thomas on the roster. A couple other guys with some return experience like Willie Snead and Justice Hill, but I think a guy like like Prochet, like I said, he may not be able to carve a huge niche on offense right away, but if he can, like I said, a lot of guys, and just kind of listen to him talking to some of his from the much interviews that he's had with media members in Baltimore, that he's a guy that loves competition. And I think I think that's the kind of guys that the Ravens love. I mean, you really in the NFL, you really got to be the kind of guy that embraces and loves competition, but especially in Baltimore, because like I said, if you don't want to compete, you're on the wrong team. You're playing the wrong sport, and so I think a guy like that who already had that competitive mindset will have a lot of success here for the Ravens. And then lastly, they got arguably the steal of the draft in Iowa center Geno Stone in the seventh round. They got him early seventh round at 219. So wasn't too far from too far off from Prochet. Roche was taken later in the sixth, and they got Stone in the early seventh. And this is a guy who, like, after the pick was made, like, a lot of experts had him rated much higher. They had him going. They thought he was gonna be like a possibly even a day two pick, if not early day 33, and he lasted all the way to the seventh round. And this guy is viewed as one of the steals of the draft. And like I say, he's a highly intelligent and instinctual player that plays with great speed and physicality, plays the ball well in the air, and recorded a career high 70 tackles last season. Like after watching what Chuck Clark did, being a, like I said, the low round pick out of Virginia Tech, I believe in 2017, and then kind of blossom, kind of biding his time, and then blossoming into a star as a starter once his opportunity came when Tony Jefferson went down last season. I can see a similar path to for Geno Stone. Like this, after watching his college film alone, it's just like, this guy could be the next Chuck Clark. I'm not saying he's going to replace Chuck Clark, because Chuck Clark plays strong safety, but he could be a guy that, say Earl Thomas is only under contract for another 3 seasons. Geno Stone's under contract for four. With his rookie contract. So this could be a guy that, could bide his time. And before you know it, like, knock on wood, hope Errol doesn't get injured. But, if Errol does happen to go down, in the next year or two, or, even in year three of Geno Stone's career, like, it was with Chuck Clark, and he rises to the occasion. He could be the next Chuck Clark, as far as, the late round guy. I mean, most teams would love for all their picks to pan out, but it's rare that, that late round picks get guys that, when you see you got drafted in the sixth, seventh round, most of those guys aren't locks to make the rosters. They're viewed as mostly special team guys who aren't gonna, be real contributors for their teams. Chuck Clark was, the coach. The coach even told him that, he's just gonna be a special teams guy in this league. Now look at him now. He's the signal caller on defense. So I think that a guy like Geno Stone could follow that same trajectory. He'll be able to learn from guys like Chuck Clark, learn from guys like Earl Thomas, learn from Anthony Levine, and learn tricks of the trade, and like I said, learn from guys like Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey, Jimmy Smith. There's a lot of great minds, great talent, great depth in that defensive back room, especially the safety position. A guy like Chuck Clark is real cerebral. Might be able to impart some of his knowledge on to Stone, and like I said, I know he'll probably be hanging on every word that Earl Thomas has for him. Just, a guy like Stone, I'm pretty sure, like most safeties, growing, coming up through high school, and like look at Earl Thomas as like kind of one of the gold standards as far as the past decade. So I think he'll benefit well from having him as his mentor and as a leader in that group. But like I said, that's it for the draft. I was really impressed with what Eric DeCosta and his staff was able to do. We'll close out this episode just some talked about some of the undrafted free agents. The Ravens, like the fact they think they have like a 5 or 6 year streak of an undrafted free agent making the 53-man roster. So, like I said, there's some candidates that could be, up for that this year. Is Oregon tight end Jacob Breeland, 6'5", 252 pounds. This guy, he was on his way. He's on pace for a breakout season. For a really breakout season. In his final year at Oregon. He in just 6 games he caught 26 catches for 405 yards and 6 touchdowns. I mean, like, if you were to extrapolate that, I mean, what most college players play 12 games, including a bowl game. If you extrapolate that over an entire full season, this dude would have had over 800 yards receiving and a dozen touchdowns. So, I mean, to get him as an undrafted free agent, and especially after trading Hayden Hurst to the Falcons this offseason, I mean, to me, he's a prime candidate to make the big to kind of win that number 3 tight end spot. I know they did bring another guy from Georgia. I think his name was Elliot Wolf or Eli Wolf or something like that. But I see, after watching Breland's tape, and just like I mean, this guy has 53-man roster written all over him, and the Ravens love their tight ends in Baltimore. They love those two tight end sets. So I got like Breland, who's like the threat as is a solid blocker, can learn from Nick Boyle to kind of refine his blocking game, and is a really excellent receiver working in the middle of the field. Could really has a chance of really making this roster. Another guy He said the Ravens didn't draft an outside linebacker as a pure, true edge rusher, but like they were able to sign undrafted free agent out of James Madison, John Daka, 6'2", 227 pounds. He recorded 67 tackles, 28 of them were for loss last season, and he led the FCS in sacks with 16 and a half. The Ravens have had success finding small school guys, pass rushers, guy like Matt Judon, who had, I believe he had like 20 or 20 and a half sacks his last year at Grand Valley State. And he, like I said, look where he's at now, just coming off a Pro Bowl season. So a guy like John Daka from James Madison could come in and kind of maybe be the next unheralded, the Ravens linebacker, this time outside linebacker. Usually it's inside linebackers that make the final cut for the Ravens as the undrafted free agents. But like I said, with some of the thin depth that they have right now at the edge rusher position, maybe a guy like John Daka could really get a sniff and really get a chance to prove himself. Hopefully, there is a preseason so he can really like they have the opportunities to show that, not just in practice. I'm not, due to all this COVID things, I highly doubt that they'll be able to have joint practices with teams, just because you want to lessen the exposure of it. To say it, you're playing a team who is based in California, and their stay-at-home order just got extended for 3 more months. Would you feel comfortable practicing? Sharing facilities with the team, with members of a team that that's been around that, been exposed to that. I'm not sure how that's going to be, and I highly doubt it. I mean, this is a strange times we're living in, so I just don't know. I just hope that they do have preseason games for a guy like Daka to show what he's got. Another guy, outside linebacker, to keep an eye on, who the Ravens drafted slash defensive end, is Chauncey Rivers from Mississippi State, a 6'2", 262 pounds. For He had 43 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks last year. Um, He's a guy that's real interesting. He's a former like Pernell McPhee, who the Ravens just resigned. He's a former Last Chance U participant. That show on Netflix from East Mississippi Community College. And then he ended up transferring to Mississippi State and had a pretty solid season last year. The Ravens signed him as an undrafted free agent following the draft, and he had the chance of like I said, learning under Pernell McPhee, at least for training camp. If he doesn't make the final cut, he could be a guy that can't prime candidate for the practice squad. But like, who knows? He might show the Ravens enough in training camp and in practice and stuff like that, to where he could earn him spot on the 53-man roster. Because I said the Ravens will have tremendous depth at that position right now. Another guy to keep an eye on is Marcus Willoughby from Elon. 6'3", 253 pounds, 6'5". He had 6'5" tackles, 13 and a half for loss, and 7 sacks last year. So it's another small school guy with some production, and with like where I kind of imagine most of the Ravens look for as an outside linebacker. Then finally a guy who it's like the Ravens, like I said, they drafted 2 inside linebackers, and then they re-signed LJ Fort, gave him an extension, and then signed Jake Ryan. They already got some couple guys. I mean, it's going to be a stiff competition, but another guy to throw his hat in the ring would be another former Iowa Hawkeye, and Christian Welsh. 6'3", 238 pounds, a little on the lighter side, but he can bulk up once he gets to the NFL weight room. But he had 87 tackles, 9 for loss, and 3 sacks last year for the Hawkeyes. And he's a guy that it's a really nice sideline dude. He's not the fastest, but he's always in the right place at the right time. Just watching his film and some of the games that they played last year. This is another guy that could, except the Ravens have a rich history of finding undrafted inside linebackers, especially. But so like guys like Patrick Owasu, we got the Chris Board, and Jameel McClain, Dano Ellerby. The list goes on and on. Bart Scott, and so who knows? Walsh might be the next guy who could make a name for himself in this league after starting off with humble beginnings. So that's all we have for this episode. I'll be gonna be recording one right after this, just kind of catching you guys up with some more Ravens news, giving my thoughts on that, breaking it down, some signings and some negotiations of contracts and all that. But yeah, stay tuned for more. Like I said, I'll be recording the following episode after this one. But it was fun talking about the draft. I know it was long overdue. The draft is it was at the end of April. I'm recording this almost in the middle of May. But like I said, my newborn has had me busy. So thanks again, and stay tuned for more.